Hello Saints, welcome in for another video in the middle of the week. These videos are intended to be helpful to you in your Christian walk, and I hope and pray that they are. Today I just wanted to look at a couple of verses in Proverbs about our speech. I don't know about you, but most of the time when I've gotten myself into trouble, and after 67 years of life, I still get myself in trouble, and usually it's because of what I say. And sometimes it's how I say what I say. And it's important that we understand the value and the effect of our words and who we speak to. Sometimes you have to offer words of correction. You have to offer words of opposition. But it can be done in such a way that it does not motivate someone to anger or retribution. It can be done in such a way that produces life in people. The writer of Proverbs, and I didn't look up if this was Solomon or not, it probably is, but the writer of Proverbs 15 said, "A soft answer turns away wrath." And a better translation there is probably a gentle answer. Turns away wrath. You can be having a conversation with someone, or you may, in this case, it's an answer. So someone is either asked the question or they've said something that you think might require an answer. You can do it in such a way that you turn away wrath. Well, the reverse of that is true. You can do it in such a way that you create and foster wrath. You can stir up the anger in someone. It makes a big difference. But he said a gentle answer. Some of the dictionaries actually translate that word weak. And I think what they mean is that if you approach someone from a standpoint of humility, and of course humility is not weakness, but in weakness in the sense of deference, you can say just about anything you want to if you say it in the right tone, in the right manner. A gentle, soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. We all know what that looks like. We say something in a harsh manner, in a corrosive manner, maybe corrupt. We say things to people that the tone of our voice and the words that we use create anger in the other person. Well, for one thing, we certainly don't want to have to deal with anger with someone else or with ourselves. So the writer of Proverbs 15 is saying to us that it matters what you say, but it also matters how you say. Is it a gentle answer or is it a harsh answer? It makes a big difference. And the hard part here, saints, is that in the moment sometimes we forget that. In the moment someone says something to us and it maybe riles us up a little bit, or maybe it concerns us, and we immediately say something and say it in a way that is, not only does it create anger, but it creates an atmosphere where they can hear nothing we have to say. So it's important what you say and how you say it. He goes on to say, a wholesome tongue is a tree of life. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life. Really in the Hebrew, there's a better word there for wholesome, and that is a healing tongue is a tree of life. You can actually speak healing to someone if you use wise words. As a matter of fact, this same chapter says the tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly, but the mouth of fools pours forth foolishness. You've probably heard me say, and this is not a new saying, but one of my teachers in elementary school used to tell us that it would be important for us to put our mind in gear before we put our mouth in motion. And doing that will keep you and me out of a lot of trouble. This is the tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly. You might know the situation. You might know what that particular person's dealing with. You may even know what they have done wrong, or maybe what they're doing right. You use that knowledge rightly in a wise way. But the fool just flows out of their mouth. And I can tell you, the quicker and more volume that comes out of your mouth, the more apt you are to get yourself in trouble. James, I'm not going to turn, but James 1:19, James writes that we would be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger, slow to wrath. Swift to hear, and I think the order is everything here. Swift to hear, quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. I think the slow to anger is a result of being swift to hear and slow to speak. Because how many times we get in trouble, we don't listen, we just start talking. And we don't listen to what the other person says, and we start saying words. And so that brings us to a place of anger. It is important what you say. It is important how you say it. Just a little while later, the same writer writes, pleasant words are like a honeycomb. Pleasant words are like a honeycomb. It says it's sweetness to the soul and it's health to the bones. Pleasant words. And we all want to hear pleasant words. We want to receive pleasant words. Someone says, I got good news and bad news. Well, give me the bad news so I can get it out of the way. Because we really want the good news. We want the pleasant words. And so we might need to look for opportunities to offer pleasant words. I know with me that's difficult, because I have a tendency just to say what's on my mind and say it in such a way you can get over it. But that's not right. That's not pleasantness. That's not pleasant words. And it's certainly not, as he writes here, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. Is it possible that in conversation and right words that we can create an atmosphere of health in their bones? I mean, that's pretty clear. We're talking about a physical health here in someone. I don't know. I know it's important what we say. I was reminded as I was looking at these verses of Colossians 4:6, which says, or actually 5 and 6, which says, walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, redeeming the time. And then he says this, let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how to answer each one. The context that he's writing this is towards those outside the church. Know how to respond. Let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt. In other words, let it be, on the one hand, palatable, on the other hand, that it would last and do its job toward outsiders. But I think the same principle applies to anyone we're dealing with, that we need to have our speech seasoned with salt, or have our speech with grace towards the other person, because it could be us that's dealing with this. And then I'll just wrap up with just a couple more, just a couple more verses, and these are very familiar. These are very familiar to you, but I'm going to read them anyway. Here we are. A man's stomach shall be satisfied from the fruit of his mouth. From the produce of his lips, he shall be filled. So what you receive is really a result of what you're saying, what you're giving out. And then this hallmark verse that most people can quote, but I'm going to read it and then we'll finish up. It just says this: death and life, both of them, death and life, are in the power of the tongue. And those who love it will eat its fruit. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. We cannot diminish the value and the effect of our words, but we can produce life with our words. Now take that to heart. Let God minister that to you, and have yourself a great week, and then you and I both will have the ability to go out there into the world and act like somebody. Good day.